everybody's struggles.
Welcome, world, to Everybody's Struggles. We have a beautiful and wonderful guest. We have Miss Rasheeta Joy here.
Hey.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
The beautiful thing about Rasheeta is she's a nutritionist, vegan, master trainer, and overall helping people with their health. I'm very thankful for her to be here. And I know a lot about you, the world doesn't. So if you could tell the world a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you're currently working on.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rasheeta Joy. I am originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I currently live and work out of Los Angeles, California. I've been a fitness trainer / coach for the last 10 years, and I've been helping women all over the world transition to eating whole food, plant-based, to help them with illnesses such as diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fibroids, endometriosis. And I just love what I do because I feel like us as a Black community need to heal ourselves. We need to change what we're eating. And I love being a champion to help women learn how to do that.
I love it.
Thank you.
So if you could tell us a little bit about where you grew up.
So, yeah, I grew up in Philadelphia. My path was kind of interesting getting to Philadelphia. My mother was originally from there. My dad is from Ghana. So growing up in Philadelphia was, this is like what, early 90s? It was rough. You know, Philly is not the cleanest of cities, you know what I mean? But still home. Glad I grew up there, taught me a lot of lessons. Yeah, I was kind of, you know, happy to move around.
Right.
I love LA. I love to travel. I've been a few places, so I kind of consider many places home.
Right.
And I think that's something that I've learned over the last year. It's like home can be wherever you want it to be.
Right. No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So how was it growing up in Philadelphia?
It was a little rough. I also believe that anywhere you live can either be joy or pain, depending on your circumstance. And I think I grew up with some pain, you know, just because my mother was trying to, you know, single parent, trying to do her own thing and trying to start her business. And that made life a little hard. So growing up in Philadelphia wasn't ideal, but it made me who I am. It made me the entrepreneur that I am today.
Right.
Yes, I'm grateful for my upbringing, but living in Philly, the city, moving around a lot was definitely challenging, especially for my mother. And this is why I love to help women with their fitness and their eating habits, because when you're in poverty, you don't feel like you have a choice in the things that you eat, right? And when you get stressed and when you feel depressed, you go for the foods that may comfort you or the foods that are economically savvy or available to you. And that leads to illness and disease. So I love being an advocate for women to be able to make healthier choices, first to be able to recognize what they're actually emotionally going through, so they can make a better choice. And, you know, just to give them more options, different options, because that's my upbringing. My mother was, you know, depressed, you know, entrepreneur, like you go through depression, but then you got kids and then you're like trying to figure your own life out. And she made some really not so great eating choices that kind of trickled down, led to disease. And I wanted to be a person to change that. So that's kind of how growing up in Philly was. But I had a lot of fun too, but it was also a lot of pain.
No, I understand. That's kind of how it was with my grandfather as far as like eating habits and like eating certain foods.
Right.
And honestly, like his health was one of the reasons why I did transition to being more plant-based, because, you know, I saw his body literally break down for like 17 years.
Wow.
And so I understand when you talk about seeing somebody, you know, kind of just fall down and fall apart, really. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. So we want to start at the top, and this is kind of the source of most things that people deal with, but what's the hardest thing you've ever dealt with in your life?
The hardest thing I've ever dealt with in my life was probably the passing of my mother. That was thank you. That was the hardest thing. And it's definitely up there. And I would say the hardest part currently is learning how to live without her.
Right.
Okay, because when somebody passes, like your mother, like that's heartbreaking, crazy. But then it's this other phase that comes in where you want that person that's that loves you, that knows you, that knows how to guide you or give you advice, an adult. Right. You know, like you want the person that's been there, did that, the wisdom. Right. So learning to live without that is probably the hardest part. The hardest thing I've ever had to go through. It's like, you know, parenting yourself. Even though, you know, we're all adults. I'm almost going to be 40 one of these days coming up. And it's like you still want that guidance. You still want that love, that nurture. So learning how to give that to myself is one of the hardest things.
Wow. So what are you doing now when it comes to your mother's death, that's something that you never really overcome, but how do you learn to live with it? And then also too, to get that nurture and love that you're looking for, that you're, you know, because your mom's not here, what are you doing to get that?
So, like you said, you know, you never overcome it. What I've been doing is just learning how to love myself, right? Really depend on and lean on God, you know, very in tune with the spiritual realm that even though they're not physically here, they're still spiritually around. And I think that gives me the most comfort. Right. You know, it's like I can kind of walk and talk to her if I need to, or, you know, just pray and know that I got a piece of her, you know. I think that's the most comforting part about it. But as far as like just hugging myself, loving on myself, treating myself, telling myself it's going to be okay. It's like mothering yourself, you know, which is, may sound different to some people, but it's necessary, you know, because nobody's going to be as gentle with you as maybe your mother might have been with yourself. And, you know, we're always hard on ourselves. So you just take a moment and be like, it's going to be okay. And, you know, it may seem silly at first, but it makes a huge difference. So that's what I've been doing.
It's crazy you say that because there was the book that I read, it's The Mastery of Self or Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz and his son. And they talked about like the best relationship to have with yourself and with God is to marry yourself and to love yourself and, you know, be comfortable with yourself. So when you say that, it kind of hits home because those are some of the things that I've learned on a personal tip, where you got to be a little more softer, a little more loving, a little more understanding to yourself because you're grieving, you're hurting, and you're dealing with all these things. So like, I appreciate you sharing that because now I understand more that I need to continue to keep doing that for myself.
Yeah. Thank you for making that that comparison there.
So the next question is, what are some of the life struggles that you've had in your life?
Life struggles. Let's start with boundaries. Setting boundaries is I still struggle with that, especially when it comes to family. Those family boundaries. Definitely been to therapy to learn more about boundaries and how they actually help me more so than the other person. Right? Because I'm a lover. I love on people. I give and I give. And then sometimes you get to the point where you feel a little taken advantage of. Right. And then you're like, whoa, who can I really blame? Myself, right? So boundaries has been like a life struggle. Learning when I'm giving too much, learning when I'm not giving enough to myself. Yeah, that's definitely been a life struggle. Everything that kind of revolves around giving and loving others and feeling, I guess, equal or feeling the reciprocation from others. Right. So that's a constant balance that I have to work with.
So what are you doing to not necessarily overcome it, but set your boundaries for not only other people, but for yourself?
That's a good one. That's a really good one. When I go into situations, I make a note. How much am I willing to give?
Right.
Like, how much am I willing to help this person that's in this problem? How much of my time can I give? Start paying attention, asking myself questions. Rasheeta, how are you feeling right now? Like,
Right.
what's going on? Something happening? That way I'm just kind of constantly checking in with myself. Because I used to think that other people should be checking in for me, like she might be giving too much, she might be doing too much, but that's not how it works. People kind of take what you give.
Right.
So it's like I have to be the one to check in with myself. Am I feeling used? Am I feeling the love back? Am I giving too much? They're constantly checking in.
Right. No, that's great, because I think it's important for people to kind of check in and hone in and figure it out. Get back in the groove and shake off all that stuff.
Yeah.
What are your daily struggles that are holding you back from your fullest potential?
My daily struggles. Every day I have to hype myself up to feel worthy
Right.
of what I want. Right? So I got big dreams, big goals. It's almost like a left and a right side of the brain. Like I feel like I could be here. I know I could do that. But then when that opportunity comes or whatever is required to get to that, I'm like, ooh, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be good enough for that? Do they really want me? Is it? And then it's like, stop asking yourself those questions, because they wouldn't have chose you if they didn't want you, or you had to go and get it. Stop denying myself the opportunity and let them say no,
Right.
like take the opportunity. So that's a daily struggle. It's just the confidence, working on feeling good enough, feeling enough, and just not letting that negative self-talk get you, It's like you could talk your own self out of your biggest dreams.
Every day.
Every day. It's like, just go, just do it. It's like, should I be sitting on this couch? And it's like, well, you here. It's like, so talk,
Right.
share.
So what are you doing to overcome, those struggles that you're having with yourself?
I am calming myself down, meditating for a few minutes a day if I can. I'm not the best at meditating. I remember
Same.
saying that last time. But when I hear that talk, it's like, well, okay, wait a minute. I'm able to have full-blown conversations with myself. Like, I'll be like, I'm bugging them, or, I'm taking up too much of their time. It's like, well, did they say that?
Right.
Or am I making that up? Most of the time, I'm making that up.
Right.
And it's like, just go. And then you go and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not in anybody's way. They're actually happy to have me,
Yep.
So just hearing that, recognizing that negative self-talk and kind of just putting it down.
Yeah, it's crazy you say that, because lately, I've been in a place where no assumptions, no questions, none of that within myself. Because I have friends that'll be like, well, what if she's this, or what if he this, or
Right.
there's this book that I read. It's like you can make 1,000,001 different excuses on those assumptions when you can just either ask or find out the answer. And once you find out those things, it'll help. So I understand where you're coming from.
That's
when it
one of our
comes to
4 agreements, and that's the trickiest one for me.
Yep.
The assumptions.
Well, yeah.
And don't take things personal. I'm like, ooh.
See, the taking personal thing, I'm learning to grasp and hold and not use now, because it's working. I'm understanding now that people will talk about you, but you're the only person that knows yourself. And then also too, with the assumptions, if you don't know something, go ask. But then the problem is we're scared of the truth.
Yes. We're scared to hear the answer or what they're going to say back. Absolutely.
But then you realize once you ask, it's not that bad.
Never is, right?
Yeah.
It's always worse in our head than we really think it is.
So going through all the things that you've been through, with all the struggles and stuff, what's your outlook on life now?
My outlook on life, I'm always optimistic. I'm always positive. I love that about myself, that I always see a really bright future. And I think, it's a privilege, it's a blessing that I've been able to still see light, even though sometimes things don't seem exactly how I want them to be at this moment. But life looks great. I'm very optimistic about how life is going to be, because I know if at this time I got this much understanding, which is way different, way more comprehensive than it was last year, then I know next year I'll be in a totally different light, and then be able to share this with clients and kids and nephews and, more people. So I just feel really blessed that I'm able to grow and see it,
Because we're seeing it firsthand.
Yeah.
We've grown a lot in the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
What's your ultimate goal in life?
My ultimate goal. Ooh. That's a good question. I don't know. I put my finger on it, but I know I want to make a impact on a lot of people. I know I want to be a person that people can say, she helped me change my life.
Right.
Like, she told me something she did, something clicked, something made sense, in her talking that made me want to make a better decision with what I eat or how I look at life, or something of that sort. Or even, what I've been through, to be able to have somebody else not go through what I've been through would be amazing, and I feel that I'm on that path, and I feel blessed. Like, with my business, maybe once a week or so, somebody will say something like, "Oh, thank you for sharing that." And I just get like a little, relief, because it's like, okay, I'm in my purpose. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and it feels good, because I want people to live longer. I want people to be 38 and still have their mothers. I want people to still have their fathers. I don't want, people to get cheated out of a grandmother, So, so I just keep speaking about it, right? Helping people. So that's my ultimate goal, just to be a person that makes an impact on many people's lives.
No, I appreciate that. I'm going to say this too, because there's certain things that you post on like Instagram and stuff, like, you always tell me, "Oh, Aaron, you post some good food, but is it healthy?" She always says that. And then another thing too, it's just some of the libido videos that you have. Like, I think it's very important for us males to be paying attention to how we could prevent some of those things happening to us. That song you put, I don't want to say it, but those things help me, because it reminds me constantly about like the path that I'm on, as far as like the eating habits. And like right now I'm trying to like not do carbs. It's hard, but at the end of the day, like, I'm noticing that I'm losing more weight. I have a lot more energy. I have a less likely chance of getting diabetes. So like, it's certain things where it's just like, all right, cool, I can do this now. But I thank you for that, because that stuff really helps like a lot. And I send it to everybody. Like, because it's important for us to pay attention to like our body. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
But my last and final and favorite question, if you were to give someone advice that looks like you, or that has experienced some of the same things as you, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to give yourself grace. Give yourself some grace. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. You're not in a competition with anybody. Just take your time and give yourself some grace. I feel like growing up, I was in a race to be the best at this, or maybe not even the best, just top, right? And I don't know if that I actually took time to enjoy the moments that I was in, because I was just in such a race to get to where I was trying to go, and feeling like I had to complete everything by a certain age or a certain time, or have kids or be married, and, just racing and rushing through life, when really I just needed some grace. Like, I just need to be kind to myself, you know? Because what I find is that people that are usually most competitive aren't very kind to themselves, you know? And they can make really great athletes or scholars, but I think what's most important is how you treat yourself,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to treat ourselves right. Like even today, like today was hectic, but like being calm and cool, like everything kind of worked out the way that it was supposed to work out. So
That's you though. You're calm and cool and
not my head.
it doesn't come out like that.
No,
though.
no, I know. And that's the thing, like that's where the overthinking, that's where the assumptions, that's where the take it personal, like all that stuff comes. But then like I try to be as even keel as possible because, you know, it helps myself out and then also to the people that are around me. So when they're dealing with stuff like Aaron's fine, so I could be fine, even though Aaron's still like dealing with the same stuff everybody else is dealing with. So I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me again.
Thank you for having me. You said something really important, and I wanted to acknowledge it, that we're talking about my videos on Instagram, and you're like, I make some videos for men, right? Because I feel like women are leaders in the household, right? So I feel like whatever they learn, they will then kind of transfer over to their sons, their husbands, boyfriends, partners, whoever. And it's always a touchy subject, talking about things like men's health, libido, you know, all of that, reproductive health. And I just want to acknowledge that you said you watched it.
I sent it to all my friends.
And, you know, that you appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because I really do want families to stay together, and we need men. You know, we need Black men in families, and we don't need them having heart attacks at 53 and having colon cancer and, you know, all of that stuff. And I love talking about reproductive health because it all starts with women in their womb, and it starts showing signs with men and their reproductive health. You know, things aren't going the way they used to go. Then we need to change some things. Something's not right. So thank you for acknowledging that.
And to add to that too, this is something that I learned too, is like wherever your mindset is, wherever mine, and then if you have a kid, that the child's gonna have that same mindset. So if you're in a depressive, anxiety, stress, all that stuff, the kid's gonna have the same disorders that you had when you were getting ready to conceive that child. So like
transfer of energy.
Yeah, I want to make sure, like, you know, when that time comes, I don't know when, but when I have kids, that, you know, like I'm relaxed and chilled and not really tripping. So then when they come in, they're not crying, they're not tripping, they're just kind of letting everything go.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful that you even have that thought about planning to have children. Like that's something I want to, like we can plan it. We don't always have to have accidental births, right? We can think about it and get ourselves ready for it, you know, and even though we don't know exactly at the right time, but you're reading your books, you're eating healthy, you're working on yourself. When you do have children, it's like, okay, I've been working on myself, so therefore my child will have some grounding and some like nurturing that will happen for me before they even really came into the earth. So
this is important.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to sit down with me again. Make sure you follow Rasheeta on her journey. She's an amazing person, and you'll learn a ton of stuff about life, nutrition, taking care of yourselves, exercising, all that. So make sure you follow her on social media. Thanks for watching. Watch out for the next episode.
I just want you to know you are not alone.